Pokemon Legends Arceus is here, and it is big. I'm sure you've noticed little things like your shoes coming on and off inside your home when you step on the wood floor, but I took some time to find some of the even more obscure details that you may not have noticed on your first playthrough. Like how when you complete the Pokédoll side quest, a Pokédoll actually appears in your room. This is just the first of 20 obscure details that I bet you missed in Pokemon Legends. Another cool thing is that with the addition of being able to throw your Pokemon out and interact with them, when your Pokemon is low on HP, they look dizzy when you throw it out. When they're in this state, they also cannot be spoken to at all and will come back into your Pokeball within just a few seconds, unlike a regular health Pokemon who will stay until you put it away or run away. One amazing first for these games is being able to catch Pokemon without initiating a battle. And one cool detail about this is when you catch a Pokemon in the overworld without initiating a battle, your character actually reacts in a happy way. The Gardener NPC in Jubilife City has a request where he needs you to give him a ground-type Pokemon to help him with heavy lifting around the area. Interestingly enough though, if you decide to give him an alpha Pokemon, he will have a special line of dialogue where he acknowledges the Pokemon's size, a really neat little detail. A classic theme with the Pokemon Pichu is that it can't control its own electricity, and often hurts itself in battle. Like in Super Smash Bros, Pichu hurts itself with every attack. Well, in this game, when farming materials, Pichu will stumble over, a small but direct nod that perfectly fits this Pokemon. Another similar detail is when Pichu attacks you in the overworld, it seems to have to rest and catch its breath for a minute before retreating every single time. Although this is a really small detail, I think things like this in Pokemon really ground the world in a very strong continuity, and I really do love things like this. After the character creation screen and getting thrown onto a beach, the shirt you wake up wearing is actually the same shirt you wear in Pokemon X and Y, perhaps implying that your character was originally from the Kalos region. Or maybe Legends Zygarde is next. If you check Raichu's Pokédex entry, it's an incredibly similar entry to the original one from Pokemon Green and the translated one from Pokemon Fire Red, except with one interesting change. In the original, it reads, its electric charges can reach even 100,000 volts, careless contact can cause even an Indian elephant to faint. With the change being that instead of an Indian elephant, it is now the Pokemon Copperajah, which makes a lot more sense. I still think it's crazy how long it took us to get an elephant Pokemon. A common thing in Pokemon Legends is that most of the characters in the story are based off of characters from the original Diamond and Pearl series. Although never directly said outright, little hints are given throughout the world to suggest this, and one I bet you missed has to do with Arizu. I'm sure you know just by the hair that this character is supposed to be an ancestor to Mars of Team Galactic, but Arizu's name is actually another hint in itself. Arizu is spelt like the Japanese pronunciation of Ares. Ares, of course, being the Greek god who represents, you guessed it, the planet Mars. Weirder, Sneasler, and Ursaluna, the new riding Pokemon, will actually get muddy if you run through the bogs in the Crimson Mirelands. This will only last for a few seconds before wearing off, but still is a really awesome detail. The Galaxy Hall building in Jubilife City is actually based off a real-life location called the former Hokkaido Government Office, located in Sapporo, and Sapporo is the real-life location that Jubilife City was based on in the original Diamond and Pearl. Another thing I bet you didn't notice is when looking at the map of Cobalt Coastlands, you can see this area called Sands Reach. Well, it's actually shaped like a hand. Oh, and on the way to get footage for this video, I found this. Less of a detail and more of a fun fact, but Hisuian Basculin actually has the same typing and base stats as its original form. The only difference to it being basically that it can evolve, and visually of course, but it's still interesting that it's still considered a Hisuian form, meaning that Pokemon don't necessarily have to have a stat or type change to be a different form. This next one is one of my favorites. When encountering a Sudowoodo in the wild, if you decide to throw a berry at it or if it sees you, it will freeze and pretend it's a tree. That's just the cutest thing. Its eyes will follow you slowly as you walk around it, and it doesn't seem like it will attack you at all. So this one might seem small, but it's actually really cool in my opinion. When you're completing the Pokédex in Legends Arceus, as you all know, we are set in the past, and the Pokédex we have is no longer some kind of high-tech device. Now it's like a scrapbook of pictures and writings. So what is interesting is when you catch a Pokemon for the first time, its Pokédex information is not immediately available anymore. You have to go back to the professor and have him evaluate the information, which makes perfect sense because the Pokédex is literally just a file full of papers. Another really interesting thing about this is if you look closely, you can see each Pokemon's picture is placed in the Pokédex book with little folds to hold the photo there. And if you've seen that Pokemon shiny, you will have the option to swap the photo with the shiny variant of that Pokemon. But what's really cool about this is if you change the picture to a shiny Pokemon, because you physically swapped the photo, it will stay like that indefinitely until you swap it again. Because each picture is a physically printed out photo of that Pokemon. Unlike every single Pokédex that we've had before that only has a default display of every Pokemon. Again, hammering in that this Pokédex is literally a book held together by strings and clips. This may seem small, but it's awesome to think about how intentional all these details really are. As you probably know, Pokemon can no longer hold items in Legends, but they can still drop items when knocked out or caught. Well, one thing that I thought was a super cute detail is that Aipom, when knocked out or caught, can drop you Nanab berries, which are obviously based on bananas. I don't know if you knew this, but Nanab is literally banana backwards, basically. As I'm sure you know, anytime you get back to Jubilife City, a handful of Pokemon from your box will be displayed hanging out in your ranch. Sadly enough though, you can't interact with them in any way. You can try and throw berries and stuff at them, but it seems like they're a hollow model of the Pokemon. But if you aim and throw a Pokemon in the right angle, you can get them to interact with that Pokemon that you threw out. I was only able to have this happen on Pokemon that spawned toward this side of the ranch, but it's still really cool nonetheless. When attempting to release a shiny Pokemon in this game, which I don't know why you would do that, but it will actually give you a message stopping you, saying that this Pokemon is a rare species, making sure that you know what you're doing. This seems like something that should have always been in the games, but surprisingly this is the first main series game to do this. And yes, Pokemon Legends is a main series game. I talked about earlier the side quest that had to do with giving NPCs Pokemon. Well, there's actually more to this. If an NPC is requesting to be given a Pokemon and you do this request, they will keep the exact Pokemon that you decide to give them. It doesn't just revert to a regular model of that Pokemon. It will be the same height and weight and even retain its shininess if you decide to give it one. That's right, you could theoretically give every NPC in Jubilife who has this kind of request a shiny Pokemon. There's a little oversight on one of the roofs in Jubilife where you can actually throw your Pokemon on top of it, which could make for some funny team pictures. And for this last one, I always like saving something incredibly interesting for everyone who watched the whole thing. If you've done any type of shiny hunting in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you may be aware that the Legends Arceus spawns are almost entirely opposite than ever before. In Sword and Shield, as soon as a Pokemon popped up on your screen, its shininess was then determined. But with Legends, this is not true at all. As soon as you fly to a location from Jubilife, every single Pokemon that has spawned on that location now has had their shininess determined. But this isn't the only thing that is vastly different. The spawn rates for the Pokemon themselves are no longer based on percentages like they have been in the past. When you walk through Route 3 in Pokemon Sword, you had a 15% chance of seeing a Growlithe pop up in the overworld. But in this game, the spawns are more like general areas, with different Pokemon fighting in bouts of RNG to be the one that spawns. And combining these two things I mentioned can have a very interesting effect on specific shiny Pokemon. So far, what I'm about to show you, I have only seen happen once, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens a few times in the future, or is deciphered completely sooner or later. My friend Misery was casually playing through the game when he found a shiny Graveler. He then saved about a Pokeball's throw away and went on to fail the shiny Graveler. After this, he reset his game to encounter the shiny again, and it seems that Zubat overtook the Graveler's spot in the lottery of RNG, and even took the Graveler's shininess. Maybe in the future, we will find a way to reset for this and even swap shiny Pokemon you find in the wild with another Pokemon in the encounter table. But I'm no expert, so who knows? If you genuinely enjoyed this video, subscribing tells me there's people out here who enjoy this kind of thing, and follow me on my socials to stay updated on future videos.